Alrighty, we're live. Welcome back, everyone, to the S&C podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Stefan Carley, also known as Coach Carley. We've got Matty Scar Performance, all the way from Indianapolis. And we've got another new guest joining us today, Torben Keller, joining us all the way from the Danish land, Denmark, with the Nordic gods. How are we doing up there?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we talked. Me and
what did we call him, Matty?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Called him. What was it? What was it we called him?
An international badass, I think, is the best way to describe Torben.
Yeah.
Thanks. I think you're the ones have to be the ones deciding whatever I'm supposed to be called.
Yeah, we'll stick with that, Torben. We'll stick with the international badass. I think that's going to stick.
Yeah. So me and Torben met in person in April at the ATG convention, and I had something going on with my stomach there, so I was having a hard time for that whole week. But we talked about a lot of things in between the testing and kind of moving around. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up with you to kind of talk about was, and I saw you posted on Instagram, as a former professional and international boxer yourself, I think you mentioned how a lot of people in the kind of fighting community, and specifically boxing, are afraid. I don't want to necessarily say afraid, but think that being strong and strength training is kind of the enemy, I think is what the words you may have used. Do you want to kind of elaborate on why you think that came about and how to get around that and use it in a beneficial way?
Yeah, I think that there's a neglection or whatever, because I think everybody want to be strong, but how to get strong is maybe where it's, going on a D route, because I think mostly because it's a sport with weight divisions, people are afraid of getting heavier, and because at least in Denmark we have a big history of when we go down in weight, we really dehydrate and just like stop eating. And so we have a big difference between our normal weight and our fighting weight. And with that being taught to the newest generation, you always seem to, put on, I won't say anorectical, but more like binge eating disorders to people, because the thing is that you stop eating for a time and just like sweat, and almost you're a tough guy if you can lose a lot of weight. And I've, before talking too much about it, I've done all the kinds of way you have to lose weight. I've been sitting in the sauna with clothes on. I've been sleeping in bags with clothes on. I've been, all that kind of stuff, all of it, because I wasn't clever when I was a fighter as well. I've lost like 8 kilos in 1 week, and it's stupid. But the thing is that, of course, you will gain weight, because if you're like unnaturally low once you fight, and once you get back to your natural low weight where you aren't fit, that's not your normal weight. So once I quit my boxing career, I actually gained, I think, 6 kilos quite fast. But the funny thing is, I gained it so fast, maybe within a year or like something like that, but was even more ripped than before. But the funny thing is that was in 2015, and I've been weighing the same ever since, no matter actually how much I eat or how much. So I've been weighing the same. So this is more like my natural weight. Right. Mm-hmm. So I was boxing in the weight division below 69 kilos at that time, and that is 156, 58 pounds or something. Mm-hmm. And now I am 81 kilos, and I don't know that in pounds actually. It must be
like
178.
Yeah, like around 180.
Yeah. So the funny thing is that people are afraid of getting heavier, because heavier means bigger opponents. And when everybody does this, the funny thing is that when I ended my career in 14, my last pro fight, I actually got back to boxing in 19, just as my daughter was born. And I just wanted to get back, and I could get back as amateur. And I got back into boxing without losing any weight. I was just being my normal weight, just skipped the breakfast. And the funny thing was that I haven't been boxing at all for 5 years, and I entered the Danish national championships, and I won that shit. So, and I started. People were laughing at me because I was smaller, and they said like, "Hey, Torben, now you're so small," and blah blah blah. And I didn't train anything specific. I'm training a little bit of boxing once per week. That was the only thing, and then I won that shit. And it's just like my idea is that I was better now because I was physically better prepared, and my body was like full on because I was way worse conditioned than those guys. But when they lose so much weight, they get so dehydrated, and they aren't muscular structural balanced. So they don't get fully use of their potential. So even though I'm not fully trained and fully anything, I could actually be at their level. But on top of that, I had a clear mind. I was fresh. I was happy because I wasn't like totally dehydrated. So I think that's a big thing. Of course, when you go to the highest international level, those guys are big. So maybe it's worth losing some percentages if everybody does, but those guys are crazy. Those are big. Just like when in every sport.
Torben, how can you elaborated on a little bit, but you spoke about your clarity and then obviously the structural balance that you had when you returned in 2019. But do you think that your performance was severely impacted like in 2014, 2013 when you were shedding weight and trying to drop underweight? Would you say that your performance was severely impacted?
Yeah.
How did that affect you? Like, do you think that there was something that was, do you think that you could have gotten better, or what was, like, was there something that was, what was your reason, I guess? What was your reason for wanting to be underweight? Was it the fear aspect, or was it just because, well, I'm good in this weight, so I'll just stick in this weight?
No, I think it's because of tradition. I think it's because of, this is how we do, and we've always done it. So that's, we don't have another frame of reference. That's the only frame of reference we have. So that's what we do. So I think it's because often in boxing, just like many sports, I think it's former athletes that becomes the trainers. But a good athlete doesn't necessarily mean a good trainer. So he just, keeps on the same rhythm going. There's always, without having any doubt but the thing is that I started my interest in all this kind of stuff when I was around 14, 15, starting the international journey and all that kind of stuff. I started asking, why do we do this? And it's not very good met when I went to Eastern Germany and asked the coaches, why do you do this? And they were like, just shut up and do it, because we have this multiple champions and all that kind of stuff. But I said that if you can't explain it to me, then somebody else explains something else that I actually find reasonable. So I just started not doing if they weren't going to explain me why. So I got hated a bit on because I was that irritating athlete, always asking why. But I wouldn't commit myself to doing something that nobody could ask me or tell me why I should do.
Yeah, it's like your coach had a coach before him, and then that coach, and then there's one person like 100 years ago that was like, all right, we'll run long distances for cardio. And it's like, well, well, my coach did it, and then it's the same thing in all the sports.
I think a big thing is that, in boxing, one of the stupid things boxers do is that they have small dumbbells in their hands and they start punching with the dumbbells. But the dumbbell is on gravity, right? So the force is gravity determined and not in the punch direction. So it's actually detrimental for your punching nervous system, because it has to break your arm before, extending, or else your elbows dislocates and all that kind of stuff. But people do that stuff because they've seen like Floyd Mayweather do it. But Floyd Mayweather is good despite of that, not because of that. So I think what the problem is that because the idea of having dumbbells and going like with the guards and just walking with them as guards, that's good, because now they're in the right direction of gravity and all that kind of stuff. But I think looking at the best in the world, and because you have won whatever you have won, then you have some influence, and that could be used either good or bad.
So when you work with fighters now, how do you kind of change up what you do compared to what you did when you were in the fighting scene? Do you use a lot of the ATG movements? Because I think we just lost Torben. He really did.
What do you
like
think he
that
does,
question.
Matty?
I don't know. Let's see.
He's disappeared.
So
We're back.
no, it's all good.
My app just closed.
We're all good. So what I was asking is, so as you kind of work with fighters now, what kind of, I guess, non-traditional things do you add in? And that could be in a ATG kind of movement perspective, like the structural balance, Poliquin thing, or any of your ideas.
Yeah, I actually think that, one thing for me is that one thing that is very important actually is that ATG to me is not about exercises, but about knowledge. So it's how we apply and how we utilize knowledge the best way. So understanding how we use exercises to get the acquired adaptations. So what we want for boxers is, first of all, a injured boxer is like shit. So it's not even like on the football field, soccer field, or whatever, where you can be like substitute and play a few minutes. Either you're fully in or you're fully out. So either you go or not go. So I think one thing to remember is that we don't want to be injured. But as a boxer, you do so much internal rotation from all hooks, and your guard being like so protective, then strengthen your subscapularis, and a lot of in the rotator cuff muscles is so important. But not to forget the grip, because if your hand in the glove is only softly closed, it's gonna crack your bones. So and you don't transfer energy well, right? So if you transfer weight and punches with a soft sponge, it's not going to be very hard, even though the sponge travels with a lot of speed.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be like clenching the fist, but only just as you hit the target. So I've been doing a lot of external rotations and a lot of pulling motions. One of the things I experienced was that people tend to bring in boxing into the strength room, but I don't want to have boxing in the strength room. I actually want to do a lot of the opposite, because all the punching and endurance stuff, you're going to do that specifically to the sport on the heavy bag. So we want to simulate. That's not how you do sport-specific training. That's not sport simulations. That's not sport-specific training. It's actually utilizing the weight room for you to perform better on the field or in the ring or whatever. So that's a lot of the external rotators. That's a lot of pulling motions. That's a lot of legs, a lot of calves, a lot of feet. So I think the ATG style of training worked like perfectly fit into the martial art and fighting industry.
It sounds very similar to what we talk about with football. Hey, Matty, like we talk about the speeds, like always doing the speed ladders or doing heaps of jumping for extra training, but like to take what you're not getting within your sport and then transferring it into the weight room. It's pretty much exactly what Torben just said there, where everything that you're not getting that is going to be beneficial for you in the ring or on the soccer pitch, you're doing in the weight room. You're not doing while you're training because you're already doing it. So there's no point in doing it again, is there? You know, that's it's very, very interesting to actually hear that perspective, Torben.
But I think there's a very important thing to remember is that I train hockey players now as well. And the funny thing was that I started training hockey players. They were like wondering, "Oh, you don't know nothing about hockey." So I said, I really don't need to know nothing about hockey. I just have to look at your biomechanics and see that you use a lot of quads and a lot of glutes. So we need strong hamstrings, right? So that's one thing. And the funny thing is, as they gotten stronger and closer to the Nordics, they seem to get less injuries and strong adductors and all that kind of stuff. So it's the same thing. But we need to remember that something about, for example, the speed ladder is like stupid for getting anything other than mental confidence. So sometimes it's good to bring in those things to get people to feel like I'm fast. Because you don't get faster by using it, but you feel like you're fast. So one thing is the actual physiological, but the psychological thing is just as important, because that's why we often see players being very good just coming off holidays, because they're confident, they're happy, but their body's not there yet. So we need to always balance the stuff about just like pounding them with being so strong, and because if they don't like it, you're gonna kill them. We're so I talk about in Denmark that we are so we're in such a rich and good environment that nobody wants to work hard because they can just do something else. But so we can't take the Russian method and put it on the Danish boys, because they're just like, hey, I just do something else. So we need to give them a little fun stuff also, so they do the hard stuff to get the fun stuff.
So hopping back to the speed ladders, I like to say the only thing a speed ladder makes you better at is a speed ladder. But it's sometimes, you talk. There are the beneficial reasons that it's not agility. And I was talking to Ben Clairfield, and we were kind of talking about the Eastern Bloc, and we were talking about it from an Olympic weightlifting perspective. And it's like, those were great methods if that was your only way out of living in Soviet Russia. Like, it's brutal training, and they didn't care if they destroyed 999 out of 1,000 athletes. If they had one guy that turned into Klokov or something, got the gold medal, no problem. So, and one of the other things I want to ask you about, so with the cardio, I remember, I think it was Paul Chek that was talking about this when he was a boxing coach. So when you're looking at cardio, and for me and Steph being footballers, we don't have to worry about this, but when you're boxing, having to manage the sort of specific cardio system. So like when you're running, obviously cardio is always full body, but running is more of a stimulus on the legs. Do you do specific, like he was talking about, to really get the boxers in shape, they had to do a lot of upper body cardio, and it's for like soccer players, it's going to sound weird, like just run, but have you noticed anything with that, like doing, I don't know how to necessarily describe it, but cardio sessions that are more muscularly demanding upper body versus something that is more on the lower body?
I think that one thing is underrated and necessarily is not understood by people who haven't been in the ring, is that as a boxer, my biggest limitation was my legs. So my legs, because the canvas on the boxing ring is soft, so jumping around, doing like all that kind of movement on a soft, it's just like running around on the beach. So your legs are gonna get like sore like hell, and you're moving so much in that not extended and relaxed position. You're so isometrically moving around in the boxing. So one thing is that the VO2 max and the cardiovascular system has to be on a certain level, and running is very good for that, for the pushing on running and pushing. But I like rowing a lot. Because it's more muscular demanding, both upper body and lower body, and then it's the pulling motion as well. So I like that very much. And you can do it no matter if it's snowy or too hot or whatever. But that being said, cardiovascular system has to be like your VO2 max has to be a certain level, of course, but that's just the foundation. Now you have to put it into practice, and just like with I think it's very similar to ice hockey, actually, is that it's so specific, the sport, that you can't simulate that on running or in the training. So boxing is so specific that you have to do boxing to get better at boxing. But you have to have the foundational work done, and that's, getting your VO2 max up to a certain level, and your muscular endurance on a certain point. They talked a lot about it. The Germans were doing a lot of measurements on us with 4 millimole of lactate per liter of blood, and that's where you have to be able to perform a certain thing, because they knew that was quite boxing specific to be in that area. So I think that you have to do your cardio, but do what you like. So if you like to do rowing, row. If you like to run, but don't do it the opposite way. So if you hate running, don't fucking go run. It's gonna kill your motivation. Because that's just the foundation. And then Torben, you have to do a lot of boxing.
I gotta get you. We were just talking beforehand. A good friend of mine, he's Danish as well, and like I said, it just must be a Danish thing that you guys are just psycho. But I got to get you one of these power towers. I got to show you one afterwards. These things. So imagine a Versa climber just on steroids. This thing is next level. I gotta show you one, and we got to get you on one. That'd be epic for you. But one question I had is just moving away a little bit, and something that's a little bit lined up with my own personal sort of stories. I remember seeing the first video that I ever saw of you was at the ATG in Florida. And I remember seeing this guy just downing these ATG split squats like they were nobody's business. And then I found out afterwards, like, it just kept popping up saying, like, this guy has no ACL. This guy has no ACL. He's doing this and he's jumping around and he's doing these heavy ATG split squats. I'm like, how is he doing this? And I just wanted to ask, like, from being in that position where you are, having had that injury, what limitations have you had, if any? And if you haven't had any limitations, like, how have you managed to overcome that and be able to be strong enough to do all those sorts of things?
Yeah, it's quite funny because I didn't know that I didn't have an ACL for like some years because in hindsight, I know I popped my ACL because after I quit my boxing career, I wanted to do some MMA. And I was rolling on the floor, wrestling with one of the guys in the UFC now, actually. And he had my leg in between his and jumped to the side. So I think that's where I popped because it got a bit, very big swollen. But I went home in the flight and, went on to do CrossFit and all that kind of stuff afterwards. I didn't take care of it as the swelling was gone. I just worked out. But one day my meniscus tore as I had a class. I was just standing up from the floor and then I couldn't, extend my leg and my meniscus was torn and locked my knee. So I went on 2 days with like a semi-bent knee because I couldn't do stuff. And then I got into surgery. And in Denmark, they of course, sewed together my meniscus, but they told me, and Torben, your ACL was all over the place, so we just cleaned it up. But if you want a new, you can have a new surgery. But it's just like, why should I have a new surgery? I can do this. And at that time, I was a lot in the Poliquin educational system with the PICP. So I just started doing a lot of, I actually started walking on my hands and rowing just with the leg on a like rolling board beside, because I found that if I work the healthy leg, it gets a little bit of beneficial to the other leg as well. So just like we're rowing with one leg and did all kinds of stuff. I learned to walk my hands with that Joy on. And then, I started rehabbing with actually, and 7 weeks after, I did 40 squats with 70 kilos or something, and started doing 6 months after I did CrossFit competition.
If I had to sum you up in one statement, it would be you tore your meniscus, so you learned how to walk on your hands instead.
Yeah, some of it is actually quite true. But then I got it into sort of a mission that I wanted to prove that I could rehab this. And that was even before, a long time before ECG, but it's the Poliquin stuff going around it. But I think I was a bit too fast on fully bending, because I think that is what the only problem I've had since is that my meniscus is loose now. So fully bending is too fast, tore up those sewings. Now if I kick a plastic soccer ball, like with no impact, my meniscus can pop out, and if I do breaststrokes swimming, it can pop out as well. So I just have to then fully bend and rotate, and then it'll pop back in. So I learned how to pop it in and out, and now there's no nerve back. So it's just like
a little party trick, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like
Watch this. Yeah.
I think it's been like 2 years since it last popped out, so I don't have any limitations back.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to get to is you do some of these ridiculous feats of strength every once in a while. So when we were down in Florida, you were pulling a tank sled in a handstand, which was one of the maybe the most impressive thing I've ever seen in person. And then you did correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you did a marathon backwards with the sled? Or how what was
not
the
with
distance?
the sled. Not with the sled, but I did a marathon backwards, like I talked to Carly on. It was because one of my very good friends, a former elite soldier here in Denmark, he did a backwards marathon in 5 hours, just below sub 5 hours. And I knew I couldn't run faster than him, so I just wanted to do it more incline. So I did what we have a brutal marathon, it's called here in my town. It's 6 rounds around town, and there's within those rounds there's a 200-300 meter of like 18-20% incline you have to go through. So I went on to go do that backwards in 7 hours and 15 minutes on a regular Saturday where I was home alone.
That is wild. I have to say that is impressive.
That was, yeah. And I actually found out that
What else?
I didn't prepare well with eating all those stuff, but it was, yeah. I found out that looking back to one side and then to the other, you get your totally confusion. That's not good.
So you got the backwards walking, you've got the handstands with the sled, and then you got the sit-ups. What's the deal with the sit-ups? 10,000 was it? I was just flicking through all of them, going 5,000, 7,000, 9,000. Talk to me.
Yeah, we did. One of my friends, he asked we have this little group of stupid people where we do like stupid stuff, and he said like, "Hey Torben, what about doing some sit-ups?" And I said, "Oh, cool, let's go do it." And he said like 5,000 is just that sounds silly. So what about 10? And I said, okay, let's try it out. So we went on to, in the beginning we did like every minute and a minute for 10 minutes to 20 every minute. And then that was too much, but it was actually on the neck.
Mm-hmm.
And it got so much nausea of lying down and sitting up and lying down and sitting up. So I was like, in the end, just before my last 700, I just vomited like so much because this got so much nausea. So that was actually a limiting factor there.
But you just kept going. You just had to finish it out.
Yeah, we had to do it those last ones. That was 13 hours or something.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we've been skipping as well. We did like 100,000 skips within 24 hours. That was something as well.
That's
why?
Why not? Yeah.
No, it's one thing is that because of my friend I did it. My friend I did it with there, he actually got a brain bleeding. What is that called in English?
Oh, aneurysm.
Aneurysm, maybe.
Yeah, aneurysm. Yeah, and then he has done some crazy stuff as well. But each year he will do something crazy physically to let him know that his bodybuilder is capable. So I just do something with him. So we did, the 100,000 skips together and the sit-ups. And we tried to row in a kayak around an island in Denmark, but I've never rowed a kayak before, so it was that was cool. Damn, that was great. We only got halfway through. But yeah.
And then you run back with the kayak on your back. No.
No. But yeah, I like, since I've stopped boxing, I like to challenge myself on, having some sort of just fundamental physical capacity and mental capacity as well. Because I want to, whenever my daughter gets up in age and my children, I'll still be able to beat them in every sport. So I have to keep on going. And I think that what is the big thing for me is that the mental stuff here is that when I ran that backwards marathon, people were, hitting the horn and laughing and, waving, all that kind of stuff. So how I processed that was just like one of my clients when they have to run their first kilometer, because they think that people are looking at them with the negativity. But I just challenged that into like, that marathon was just as hard and as many thoughts for me as the first kilometer will be for him or her.
Mm-hmm.
So just by because I've never been, fat myself, so I can try this, but I can put myself in another position where it's very challenging, very actually humiliating, or, impressive. It's depending on the eyes who see, right? So these people coming by in their car have only seen like a split second of what I'm about to do. They don't know what I'm about to do. So they will maybe laugh, but if they knew what I was about to be doing, they would, clap their hands and be impressed. So it's all about how I utilize that information that I put into my own head, is whether or not it's positive or negative.
Yeah. So you run, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the largest and the fastest growing CrossFit box in Denmark, right?
Yeah.
And that's how many, you've something like 900 plus members.
Yeah, we were just below 800 members, and then I raised the prices, and now we're just below 700. But it's totally fine. It's very good. We're growing, but we were the fastest growing CrossFit box in Denmark with just around 300 members the first month of opening.
Which is a lot of members.
Yeah. Yeah, and
is there any other CrossFit box in Denmark, or are you the only one?
No. We're just in our city. We are 4 official CrossFit boxes, and they're like 8. Just like gyms with CrossFit or functional fitness within them. So there were a lot of competition, but we were, and it still is, the most expensive CrossFit box. So that's why it's so funny that with being the most expensive, we got to be the biggest within a year.
So what made you take that jump from retiring from boxing, and what was the timeline like with that, going from boxing to CrossFit?
Yeah, I stopped I had my final fight in boxing in 2014 in September, and then I started actually a bit overlapping those my boxing career and doing personal training. And then I went on and was a personal trainer just outside, was where I started. And then I had to go inside because the winter in Denmark can be cold. So I went on to be in a CrossFit box, and then started doing some CrossFit training and be the coach of some classes. And, they got popular, and I wanted to make a CrossFit gym with physiotherapy, personal training, nutrition, all that kind of help in one space, because what people think, and the most limiting factor is time. So I want to have it all there, because a lot of people won't contact their physios because then they have to wait in line and come in and just get those silly exercises and blah, blah, blah. So instead we have the physios walking around the gym and just like handing out small guidances and help to the people, and they actually know them. So they know the stuff our clients are coming in with. So yeah, that was an idea of me, and I started in that CrossFit gym in 2015, and we opened up in 2017. Yeah, we just went on to be like.
So you've always wanted to kind of. Sorry, go on, Torben. I think there's a little bit of a delay here. Off you
go. We got to be the first ELICO certified CrossFit gym, where we just like had all ELICO stuff and equipment. So we just went on to be like prime on both equipment, coaches, everything, just be the best. And now we have like 5 or 6 ELICO certified gyms in Denmark. So being a first mover on that part is also quite awesome.
What's next, Torben? You've done skipping, you've done sit-ups, you've done backwards marathons, you've done rowing, you've done boxing, you've done CrossFit. What's missing from Torben's life?
Yeah, I actually have a because I sometimes think that it's overcoming those mental boundaries, because that's the thing that I need to do with all of my stuff, is that it shouldn't be hard on the skill wise. running the backwards marathon wasn't hard on the skill. It's just like doing it. And skipping isn't hard a skill. It's just doing it. But it's just, do you want to be doing it for this long? So the next thing that I have in mind is going to be, and I don't know if I'm too stupid, but I want to be like, I haven't found a person launching a marathon in distance.
A lunge marathon.
Yeah, I haven't seen that being done, so I thought that could be quite cool. And maybe the biggest grow your butt program.
Yeah, you're gonna. Oh man, I can only imagine. ATG lunges or just normal lunges?
Just normal lunges.
Ben
and I
disappointed in you. Yeah.
I can do. But yeah, I just did like 500 meters of lunges some months ago just to try it out. How is this? And I was just like, whoa, 42 kilometers. That is freaking.
Yeah, I remember one time I did. It was like lunges and like banded kettlebell swings, and I think it was the lunges. But I sat down. I was in college. I sat down at the food court to eat, and both my cheeks just cramped. It was so bad. I just flattened out like a board in the chair. I was like, oh my god. So I can only imagine what the lunges would do to you.
Yeah, I think that's a silly enough idea, and I think it'll be around 3 days to get it done. Is what I think.
Yeah, because you can't go very fast in lunges.
No, I did 500 meters in 20 minutes, and I think that if you take 1.5 hours per kilometer, and that's 42 of them, so that's 63 hours with a little rest in between and all that kind of stuff. So I think that would be around the goal.
Yeah, that. Well, looking forward to that.
Is there someone counting your reps every single rep, Torben? Like,
no,
do you have someone that's going to be sitting there making sure your knee hits the floor every single rep?
I think I will go on a track and field track, because then it's 105, 106 rounds, and then you can put up a tent for resting, and then you could do some kind of charity thing or whatever, and have people come walk around a total round with me. So I think that could be a good way also to keep up the motivation.
We'll have a bunch of the ATG coaches fly out, and we won't do the whole thing, but we'll do like a quarter. Have a bunch of us do like an eighth of it or a quarter of it with you.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing of it. I want to aim high, and I want to dare say that I will go a marathon, and if I can only go 10 kilometers, I think that would be quite awesome as well. But I want to also be able to help people not be afraid of daring and wishing and dreaming, and so put it out there, because everybody tends to be held accountable. But yeah, held accountable is good, right? So if you couldn't do it, but you did as good as you could, then it's very good. So, but if you don't say it, you're never going to do it.
All right, I think we're over what we normally would do, but this has been plenty worth it. We'll have to have you back on soon, Torben.
I'm happy to be back, and hopefully it will be exciting for somebody to just put an ear to this.
There's plenty for us to have you talk about. So where can people find you online, find your CrossFit box, get in touch with you?
Yeah, everybody could, find me on Instagram, is where I'm mostly active, at Torben Keller. And then we have CrossFit _North_579 is our CrossFit box. If you want to put a follow up on that. And on an email or just a message on Facebook is also good. But yeah, DM on the Instagram is where I'm most contactable.
If you want to join, and what if they want to join your marathon in the lunges? No, I'm just kidding.
Sign up.
There'd be a list for that. All right, Steph, where can they find you?
They can find me at Coach Carly with the 3 eyes on Instagram and TikTok, and then Coach Carly on YouTube. And apologies for the delayed chat today. I have no idea what's going on. Must be my awesome new setup is too high tech for my laptop or something. But where can they find you, Matty?
SKAAR on Anywhere Fun, to Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Torben, I appreciate you coming on today. We'll have you back on for part 2 and beyond, hopefully soon.
I will be so happy, and I'm thankful for you guys. You are doing a massive job.
We appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will talk to everybody next week.
Thanks, Torben.